Big floors when it's going to start.
I call Clayton Mitchell.
Chair, we're coming close to the end of a 14-hour committee stage where we've had some pretty robust discussions from this side of the bench, and only a very few number of people on the national side that have actually got up and spoken to this. But I'd like to commend those people that actually have taken many calls to actually put their passionate voice forward. The Health and Safety Reform Bill really is a bit of a cock-up in my opinion, because at the start of the select committee stage we said New Zealand First is close to being able to support this. And we had a great number of supplementary order papers, amendments on the table that we were hoping were going to get some sort of common sense support from the national government. The government that is supposedly out there supporting small businesses with their ever-increasing load of increased compliance costs to run their businesses. With those family members that are under this new legislation potentially going to be caught up, embroiled in legal culpability in the event if they're in a farm workplace and their husband goes out and has an accident where they could actually potentially, the spouse could lose the farm and be sued a lot of money and potentially even spend some time in jail. Where we've got the cock-up that's come out at recent times of what is the definition, what is actually going to be a high-risk work groups in our society, and we've come out with things like worm farms, butterfly farms and lavender growing. I mean, goodness me, this bill had great expectations from people of New Zealand. The submitters that we have heard from going into this were very excited about seeing some positive change, and the rhetoric that the government have thrown out towards us saying that we're going to reduce health and safety incidents and deaths in our workplaces by 25% in the next 5 years. Well, goodness me, this is a half measure of what is expected by the people. And when we hear the likes of Andrew Bailey in the House here saying that 97% of our country's workers are actually employed in small businesses, and yet this doesn't capture them. 30% of all people employed in New Zealand are not going to be captured under the 20 workers. And I have to say it is some concern of New Zealand First, and particularly mine, when we have the situation where we put an amendment forward to reduce the numbers of workers to actually get themselves a health and safety representative at work from 20 down to 10. And of course, we didn't get the support from Labor, which was a big surprise, or those Greens. Now, the reality is, if you're talking about real engagement and actually helping the workers have that bottom-up approach to supporting their workplaces, then that was the real opportunity to go and do it. They didn't even get to vote with for their amendment. It was wiped off the table, and yet there was no support there. And it is a bit of an embarrassment when they're sitting up there yelling out how well they've done to try and get the best deal they can, and they didn't even support reducing those workers from 20 down to 10. And that's what it's about, getting the best that we can get for our workers. Mr Chair, I have to say the Health and Safety Bill would be probably better to be called the Too Little Too Late Bill, because it has been a long time since Pike River. It's been a total of 5 years. There's been a huge expectation out there within the communities, the working groups of New Zealand, to get this bill sorted out once and for all. Right first time. And yet we're finding ourselves with hiccups where we can't even get ourselves that representation, where small businesses can't get their health and safety representative training paid for by the government. Now, in retrospect, if you think about it, in many ways, that health and safety representation training is partly paid for by government already, but it's paid for as a tax incentive. The Inland Revenue will give you 100% deduction for that. However, it won't cover the likes of the cost of the travel, the time off work, and it certainly won't cover your accommodation costs. For example, if you're living in Gore, and you're wanting to travel to Christchurch to go and get your health and safety representative training done, that's going to be a cost, a huge burden, an extra cost of the ever-increasing costs of running small businesses in this country that could be waived and taken the responsibility of the government to actually pay for those costs. And of course, then they wouldn't need to claim it back in their taxes, because it would be something that the government are offering. And if it is truly about health and safety reform, that would have been one measure that I would have thought the government would have taken heed to and actually supported. I have to say, there's a media report that's just come out this afternoon. It's got here, late edition of National Security Provisions concerns the Law Society. The New Zealand Law Society has expressed its significant concerns at the last-minute addition to the Health and Safety Reform Bill of provisions for a closed material procedures for court proceedings, where national security is involved. So, Mr Chair,
Ko Sue Moroney.
Oh, thank you, Mr.